Testing, test. Yeah, you got to jiggle this red thing in the back.
Try taking out the cable for the
Test, testing. That was fun. Testing, testing.
Let's see if that makes any kind of impact.
Okay.
We'll just have to work with the two. Oh, do we have a sticker we can mark like one?
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. On here? On OBS, we can change the label.
Well, no, because it's the same. They're both the same channel.
Oh.
Because they both come through there.
And you don't want that?
You can change it if you want, but it's not going to, like, you're not going to be able to.
I mean, we've got them all three.
But you'll see, that's the thing, is I'm not sure how they set it up.
Oh, okay.
I know that they have to mute the two.
Marcelo, okay.
And then leave that line in mics. And see, it's still buzzing.
Okay.
So,
How big? Just a little thing?
what's that?
It's like a little one?
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
Test.
Test. Okay, so now it's 6:16. I usually start at about 6:15, but this is fine. So go ahead and start your Zoom and everything.
Test.
So yeah, push it once. You'll hear it click.
Okay.
Test 1, 2.
Hello? Oh, it is on. Okay. All right. Yay. So many of these nights we've had snow. Remember? This is so beautiful and popcorn is popping out there. So, um, so glad you guys are here tonight. Thank you for coming and supporting us. Wanted to introduce Cindy Miller. She's amazing. She has done thermal cooking for how many years?
Since what, 2012?
So 11, yeah. And has traveled the globe, done a lot of humanitarian efforts, and I know she'll share some of that with you as well, about what she does. And I've had a thermal cooker probably for about 5 or 6 years and have used it a handful of times, so I'm really excited to learn more. So let's just give Cindy a warm welcome, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. So, did I turn mine on? Can you hear it? Okay, good. I want some of these. Those are pretty cool. So anyway, like she said, my name's Cindy Miller, and I am here to talk about thermal cooking. And I have to tell you, I want to tell you the story a little bit, introducing why in the world would anybody want to do thermal cooking, right? Because does anybody I mean, you guys have probably heard it because you're in the prep world, true? Who has never heard of thermal cooking before? Okay, so we have a few. The last class I did that was like, there was about 55 people in the class. One person had one in the whole entire class and knew what it was. So you guys already have a heads up, a little bit of a head start. So in 2000, when was it? It would have been about 2011. My mom said to me, I have this thing you need to look at. And by the way, my mom showed up, so she's right over there. I told her she wouldn't get away with not being here. She's right there. Hi, Mom. Thanks for coming. She hasn't been in one of my classes for a while, so it's nice having her here. Anyway, she came and she said, I found this thing you might be interested in, because she knew I was teaching preparedness classes. And I don't know, we were probably driving somewhere and I just sort of forgot about it. And then like maybe 3 or 4 months later, she said, oh, you haven't come to look at that thing I found. And I'm like, oh yeah, I want to see that. And then I don't know how many months later, I don't know, it was a long time before I actually was sitting in her house at the kitchen table. She says, stay right there. I'm going to run downstairs and grab this thing and have you look at it. And it was a Shuttle Chef thermal cooker. So it was a vacuum sealed like this one, and I just don't have it here with me. But I picked it up and I looked at it and I opened it and it had one pot inside of it. It didn't have two like this one. And I looked at it and I went, huh, that's pretty cool. My mind just started racing and racing and racing because I knew what it could do, or I started thinking about what it could do. And I happened to have a class the next night. I was teaching a preparedness class, and I don't even know what the subject was, but by the next night, half of the class was thermal cooking. I pulled out a pot roast out of it because I started looking up how to do it in the morning. I put a pot roast in, and then I made some food out of it the next night. That morning when I woke up, well, that night I started doing research, and that morning I emailed Amy Lovelace or Saratoga Jack. I found Saratoga Jack and I noticed that they were in Saratoga Springs. So I emailed them and she says, come on down. And she explained all the stuff to me. So I had quite a bit of knowledge by the time my class showed up that night. So that's how I got started. I wanted to make a little pamphlet with a few recipes in it so I could hand it out when I did a class. And it turned into this, right? This is a pamphlet. It's my book, Let's Make Sense of Thermal Cooking. And of course, if I'm gonna do a cookbook, I have to do it right. So for now, it's done right with spiral and hardback. So it's good. It's been really nice. I'm almost to 5,000 books sold. We're almost out again. I have to reorder soon. Anyway. So that's pretty much where I started all this. Oh, by the way, I have an email list. If you'd like to be on it, I would tell you to go to my website and go to the bottom and sign up. But I noticed today that the link isn't working right. So if you want to sign up for my email list, I don't send out very many emails. But if I do, then I do. Just make sure I can read it. Because a lot of times I make mistakes when I fill out those things. And I'm putting them in. All right, so let's get started. I gotta get my little clicker thing over here. We haven't actually started yet. I know you guys thought we did, but we haven't. All right. Okay, this is thermal cooking. We are not on Zoom. Obviously, I've had this since COVID when I was doing everything on Zoom. Huh? Oh, well, I am on Zoom. Where's the oh, there's the camera. Hi, everybody on Zoom. So I guess we are. So this part is for you guys. See, we didn't know it. So thermal cooking. Let's see if it's going to click over. All right. It doesn't want to go over. Maybe it's because I have a little open thing right there. There we go. Try that. Huh. There we go. Okay. Oh, Norton is really causing me problems. They need to get out of there. Don't try and repair anything while I'm on a thing. Okay. All right. This is just a little example from 2020 of things that happened that year. And when I think of 2001 and when I think of 2021 and 2022, things did not slow down, did they? They just keep going. There's lots of reasons why we could be using thermal cookers and reasons to be thinking about why we want alternative cooking methods. And thermal cooking is just one of them. What retained heat cooking, thermal cooking is, it's retained heat cooking. So what we're going to do is we are going to trap heat to cook food. Okay? And I'm going to teach you all about it. It might seem like I'm doing things backwards, but I think in the end you'll get it. We're going to do the principles at the end. We're going to start with some of the things of why you want to do it. One thing that you need to have, no matter what, when it comes to thermal cooking, some people say, you know, do you just use the sun? Because it just means heat cooking, right? And people think it's solar cooking. It's not solar cooking. You have to have a fuel source. No matter what, you need a fuel source to do this. It doesn't matter what it is, you just need to bring your food to a boil. So people say, they'll say, what about, you know, what do I do with the boiling water? It's not about boiling water, although sometimes it is boiling water. It's your food is coming to a boil. So let's think about what kind of foods could be made in a thermal cooker if we're going to define it as food can come to a boil. Okay? We have soup, and we have stew, and we have grains, and we have soup, and we have chili. I don't know, what else do we have, right? You get my idea though, right? You got to boil it. So they're runny, things that are runny, okay? So it has to come to a boil. Something has to come to a boil, so you need a fuel source. And what we're going to do is after you boil it, we're going to trap that heat by insulating it, and then you're going to leave it. So this acts like a slow cooker without a cord. So, in fact, it was really popular in the early 1900s. Before, in the early, like around 1940s-ish, is when the slow cooker was developed, and then this sort of went by the wayside. In World War I, they actually used retained heat cooking. They had what they called hay boxes or straw boxes that they used, and they utilized this method of cooking quite a bit back in the day. This is a picture I received 2 weeks ago when I did my last class, and I'd received it that day. And this is a picture in Kenya. So I go to Kenya, and that's part of the places where I do humanitarian work, is we work in Kenya. And this lady is Patricia right there, and they have a sewing center in Nairobi, Kenya. We now have them making, these are hope sacks. I'll talk about them a little bit, and this is what I designed for charity work. And so they now make them in their sewing center, and they delivered 10 of them to Western Kenya, and they taught them all how to do it. So the 10 women are like you, they were in a class and they learned how to use a thermal cooker. And so it's happening without me there, which is awesome, because Kenya's really far away, right? Jet lag is real. Just saying, it's real. So I've been there 6 times, and it's been awesome, but I don't have to go 2 times a year. It's okay if I don't. But this is the thing, is that we're able to fundraise to buy the fabric. We fundraise to pay for the people to make them, and then we pay for the training. So we fundraise for all that stuff, and then we're able to, so it's self-reliance and economic development that we're teaching in Kenya, which is awesome. So they're doing it themselves, which I just love. So I just was so excited about that when I put that picture in that day, so I had to share. Okay, the key to do this is like any other preparedness thing that you want to do. The key is what? It's to practice. Plan ahead and practice. If you don't practice using your thermal cooker, how many of you here have a thermal cooker? How many still have it in the box? Okay, perfect. There's always people that still have it in the box. And you haven't used it, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. Some people put it back in the box. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about leaving, you haven't used it yet. That's why you're in class. So that's awesome. Hopefully you'll feel more confident going home to use it. And I'll give you some ideas on things you can use it every day. There is absolutely no reason why a thermal cooker should wait for an emergency, because there are so many ways you can use it. Every week there should be a way that you can utilize it, at least every week. I can do it more than a week. Although now I'm alone cooking for myself, so it's a little bit different. I don't use it as much, okay? And you'll find out that they're super handy. Okay, there's 3 types of retained heat cooking. And we're gonna talk about one of them, but I'm gonna review the first 2. The first one is an earth oven or pizza oven. In this form of retained heat cooking, what they're going to do is put the fire inside the oven and heat up around the outside, right? I would love to have one of those someday in my yard. I think that would be awesome. But that's how, and then that heated outer part is going to cook the food on the inside. So if you want to make cookies or bread or cake or lasagna or something that doesn't come to a boil, this is a great option if you have one, right? And then the next thing is pit cooking. So this is sort of like going to a luau and you're going to cook a pig under the ground. Okay? Dig a hole, you're going to put the rocks in there, the fire in there is going to heat up those rocks, you put the pig in there and cover it all up. Okay? And then it's going to stay in there for a really long time. But what we're going to talk to today is not either one of those. We're going to talk about thermal cooking, and the technique is different. Both of those you're putting cold food in the heated parts that you've already heated up. With thermal cooking, what you're going to do is you're going to heat up the actual food and insulate it. Okay? These are some examples. This is just a cooler. Who has a cooler? Everybody, right? Everybody has a thermal cooker already. Okay? Is it as nice and convenient as one of these or as inexpensive as making one of your own, right? No, but you all have one. You can figure out how to make it in an emergency. You could do it. This is a Hope Sack, like I mentioned. Hope Sack stands for Hope, Service, and Charity. And these are the ones I designed to do for humanitarian work. And then there are the stainless steel versions. So there's the homemade or the fabric ones, and there's stainless steel. Okay?
Are there advantages to the 2, the stainless steel and the made up one, I mean the bad one?
Yeah, great question. People say which one's best all the time. You just led right into that question, right? People say which one's the best. It's up to you. What do you want? Are you looking to save money? Maybe you want to make one. Do you want one with the best insulator in it? Maybe you want to find a vacuum sealed one, because a vacuum type of one like this is going to be the best quality. Okay? But are you feeding a lot of people? Maybe you want a bigger one that's just as efficient. This is a foam unit. Okay? Not as expensive as these ones. Where is your price? What is it that you want? I'm going to go over exactly and answer all the questions on which one's best. And I'll go over quality-wise and which one works best because I've tested all of them. So I'll cover that. Okay? But it does depend on you. You need to figure out what your needs are. If you're only 2 people, or like me, I'm the only one, maybe I want to use the Hope Sack and I want to get me a zebra pot. I have these little zebra pots. And what's awesome about them is I can put the meat in one, like potatoes in another one, vegetables maybe in another one, and heat them all up, stack them, and slide them inside the Hope Sack. And then I've utilized, and you'll learn about thermal mass, I have enough thermal mass in there to keep them hot for a long time. Because if I was going to, first of all, I couldn't put all that really in here. Sort of, I could, but I'll teach you how to do that later. But on the basic things of how to boil them, right, I couldn't do that in here because the volume would be so small just feeding me. Even in this, I'll have it for 2 days or 3 days because it's going to make more than I can actually eat in one setting. But it fits in here. Don't try and put this in one of these. It's not going to fit. That's not what it's for. Okay, it's only for one of, not, it doesn't really fit great in those two. It's mostly just for that one.
And what did you call it?
The hope sack? Oh, a zebra pot. Zebra pot. They're not, yeah. I found some, anyway, they haven't been the easiest thing for me to find. So I found some though. Anyway, so here's, okay, it depends on you. Okay, this happened when the Hurricane Katrina came through. I was following a lady that lived in Houston. And she was talking about how the water was rising and all the people were out working. And at one point she says, it looks like our house is going to be saved from the floods. It's not going to make it to our house, but all the surrounding neighborhoods are flooded. So she says, I have a call out for wheat grinders. She says, we have a ton of wheat, but we need grinders because they're making food to feed all the people. And I thought, okay, if I have an emergency here, obviously it's not going to be a hurricane. So we think about what our emergency is here. What is it that I'm going to do if there's an emergency? So I catered for 20 years. So I'm guessing I'm going to feed people, right? Everybody think about what you're going to do. Not everybody's going to feed people like me because probably not everybody's catered or fed a bunch of people, but I bet some of you are, right? Some of you would definitely do this. So I walked around my house and I thought, I wonder how many thermal cookers I could come up with. And within a few minutes, I came up with 22. And I set some of them out and I snapped a picture. Obviously, they're not all thermal cookers like this. And I have a crazy amount of thermal cookers like this. Nobody should have as many as I do. But you can see I have a few of them up there. This is the shuttle chef I told you about at the beginning. That's the one, that's my mom's. And Dutch ovens. Y'all have a Dutch oven, right? That can be utilized. You can bury it. Like the pit cooking, right? Cook the food in it and bury it and it'll stay in there. It's heavy anyway, so it'll retain heat better than a regular pan just because it's a Dutch oven. Okay, so it was interesting to count how many things I could do fast. And one thing I learned as I was pondering, what would I cook? What kind of foods would I have available? Okay, these are great for freeze-dried and dehydrated meals. Just saying. You boil the water, throw the stuff in, close them in. Leave them in there for hours and hours. Works great. They love food storage type items. In fact, my book is written in a way that goes through food storage. So I talk about long-term food storage and how to use it in a thermal cooker, 90-day food storage and how to use it in a thermal cooker, and then fresh ingredients. And then I go through like sides and desserts and how to make some other things in there. So as I was thinking about it, I thought, okay, freeze-dry and dehydrate is fine. But if I'm going to fill this pot, you know, I can feed 10 to 12 people. But wonder if I'm a little more organized and we have somebody making bread and rolls, and then I make some kind of like, I don't know, sloppy joes, right? I'm going to get a lot more meals out of this pot if I'm serving sloppy joes than if I'm serving soup. So just think about it. And what do I have in the freezer that I need to get used if there's an emergency, because my freezer items are only going to last for so long. So just think through what you can do as far as cooking and how you can utilize a thermal cooker. Okay, so there's different ones. There's coolers and baskets. You can make your own and you can buy a thermal cooker. So there's several ways to do it. By the way, the thermal cookers that they have the price over there, I have a few thermal cookers left. The only place you can find Saratoga Jack thermal cookers are on my website, and I only have a couple left, but I can't touch that price. There's no way. That hasn't been $115. I haven't sold one for $115 for a couple of years. So the group buy you guys have with that, even though you're going to wait till June, maybe July, that's the best price that you're going to get anywhere. So just so you know, that's really good price. Okay, do it yourself. Let's just talk about a cooler, because we already came to the conclusion that everybody has a cooler. So if you're gonna make something in a cooler with thermal cooking, you're gonna set your cooler out. You're gonna open it up, put some blankets in the bottom. I like to lay out a towel, and then I bring my boiling food in and set it inside. Wrap that towel back around. Stuff blankets around the top so that it comes to the top of the lid, and close my lid. I explained it one time, and somebody brought a dish to an activity in a thermal cooker, and when we opened the thermal cooker, she really didn't put much over the top, and so it had lost a lot of heat. So you want to make sure there's stuff on top of that pot. The reason I use the towel is because it might splash around, and then hopefully the only thing I'm washing is the towel. Because, you know, I have wheels on my cooler, so I'm going to sort of tip it a little bit and go, and I'm not going to stress over it, right? So anyway, that's basically the instructions to do it in a cooler. Who's made corn in a cooler? Okay, this is thermal cooker. You guys have already been thermal cooking, right? Here's a little recipe I found online, which was interesting. You basically just cover it with the boiling water and then leave it for 45 minutes, and it can stay in there for hours, and it'll just stay ready for you. So anyway, it's pretty cool. I'll wait for you guys. You're good. Yeah, got a couple more pictures going. Okay, we got it. Hey, you want it? Okay, you got it. All right, you've got it somewhere. I mean, obviously I found it online. They're online. Okay, the Hope Sack. So I was heading to Mexico to go on a humanitarian trip with Builders Without Borders of Utah. My sister-in-law runs a trip every November. They've gone for like 14 or 15 years. I don't even know now. And maybe 5 years ago, well, 2017, I said, I want to go. Can I go and teach thermal cooking? And she said, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Come teach thermal cooking. And so as I pondered over it, I went, how am I going to be able to buy one of these for everybody? That's a lot of money to fundraise for, right? I was trying to figure out the logistics of that because I had some friends going to, I think it was Romania, and they were fundraising. But they only needed like maybe 5 or 6. So they raised the money and took them over. And I'm like, how am I going to do that? And one morning I woke up and I got my little pad out and sketched it, and I came up, it looked almost exactly like this, okay? It's a pillow, 2 pillows, there's one on the bottom, and a tube. That's it. It's an insulator. That's all it is. And so when my sister-in-law Kelly came to my house one day and she goes, I've been thinking about it, and I know you really want to be able to teach, but I don't know how you're going to teach because we can't buy everybody one. And I said, wait a sec, I have an idea. I had something. So I ran downstairs, I grabbed my thing because I'd already made it, and I brought it up and I said, what about this? We'll have like Relief Societies help us make them, and then we'll take them down and we'll donate them. We'll teach them how to use them. And she goes, oh yeah, that'd be great. I said, what we gonna call it? And we sat there and we brainstormed for a while, and she's actually the one that came up with Hope Sack to mean hope, service, and charity. So anyway, so that's what it is. Basically, it's just like one of these. What you're going to do, this does not go inside of here. People get confused of that. That's not what it's for. It's the same thing as the outside of this. So the pot of food could go inside of here. Okay? And then you put the lid on it, and then I put it in a bag because I have used all of these, and I made the bag so it's portable, and put it inside of the bag. Anyway, so the pot goes down into here. Hot pads are pretty important. And then this goes on top. This is shredded foam. No, it's not in the book, but it's on my website. Okay. Oh, and I have cards here. Do you guys want a card? I can send them around. And I have more if we run out from here. I have. There you go. Yeah, I think I have a couple slides on the pattern of where to find it on here. So another thing that I do with our thermal cookers, where I have the Hope Sacks, is oven bags. You know, like a turkey bag, but the smaller ones that are called oven bags. I use those, and I'll put the pot, I'll take the pot and I'll put it inside the oven bag, and then I'll slide it down in here, because then it keeps my Hope Sack clean. Okay, it works great. I use those for something else, but we'll talk about that later. So, yep, Hope, Service, and Charity. This is the Mexico ladies from the first trip. When I was teaching that class, I opened the cooker and I said, when was the last time you boiled your beans with only 10 minutes worth of boiling fuel? Okay, there were more people than you guys in the class, and the room erupted. And the only word I understood was gas, 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 because it's so expensive down there. And they got it really, really fast. And I just went, oh, I guess this could be a thing. So then I started to figure out where else I could go. And I ran into Heidi Totten, She lives here in South Jordan, and she runs 100 Humanitarians. So that's where I go to Kenya. I go to Kenya with 100 Humanitarians, and we serve the people there. We teach them self-reliance and economic development. And this is on the Masai Mara. That's last time I went. We gave away a bunch of them. Oh, here's the picture. See how I've got the oven bag inside ready for the pot to be put down. The women in Kenya don't like to get their hope sack dirty. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Just let it get dirty. They don't want to, but because it's a fire and it gets the pot dirty. I'm like, no, it's just a cooking device. Let it get dirty. But anyway, this one doesn't have it going in there. Okay, the pots that go in the hope sack. Like I mentioned, like this is the inside of the Saratoga Jack. So anything with a lid up high. See how the handles. See how the handles are high on these? So that it fits on top of that tube piece is what you're looking for the hope sack. And I was super excited to find the zebra pot. Okay. The video of my pattern is available. I have it both in a digital download, and I also have it in a video form where I go through each step and you can see me making it for you. And it's just in a course. So each step is there and you just click on which step you're on. All right, stainless steel thermal cookers. There are several types, and we're going to talk about what that we have. So when you find a stainless steel version, they're going to be vacuum sealed, like I mentioned, or they're going to be foam units. So these are foam. And these guys had this brand here. I've never actually seen this brand, but the outside is actually exactly like this. Okay. She said it came with an inner pot, which makes sense. I'm assuming they probably come from the same manufacturer. But see how the pots are the same. They have the triple clad base on them so they can be used on an induction oven. She doesn't have the inner pot here, but it's a lightweight inner pot. It's like the Saratoga Jack regular one, which I don't hardly ever sell ever because I want the heavy pot inside. Saratoga Jack is the only place I've ever seen a deluxe version of a thermal cooker where both pots have the heavy base. And to me, it's important because I warped the other ones. I've used them and I have them warped. So it's just a better quality. They can both be on the induction oven. And I'm like, if I'm going to buy a thermal cooker, I'm just going to have the deluxe. I don't think this one with both pots is going to be quality-wise any different than this one because I think they're the same thing, just so you know. And there's a couple other brands that look exactly the same. Make sure that they say 8 hours plus. If on the information it says that it's less than 8 hours, go find another one because there's things you want it to do to last that long, to go longer. You don't really need more than that, but in an emergency situation, you might still want your food hot after 8 hours. So that's what I would do with that. This one right here, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I was going to say about this. Oh yeah, so this is a good example. Here's the inner pot. This one is not a deluxe. You can hear the difference, right? So this is not a deluxe. Jack with Saratoga Jack is bringing in, when these 5.5s come in, they're going to be a deluxe version is what he told me, which is awesome. The first time ever. So I'm super excited to have deluxe pots to be putting in my 5.5. This is 5.5. This is 7 liter. This one is a Mr. D thermal cooker. It's a vacuum sealed thermal cooker. What I love about it is it's a 3 liter. So it cooks for less people. It's a deluxe type version. The quality's super good. It has the heavy bottom pot on both of them. And see what's on the bottom? He's added extra thermal mass by putting cast iron on the bottom. Because usually 3 liters isn't going to stay hot as long as 7 liters. It can't, right? Even with the vacuum seal. So let me go over what some of these do as far as quality and how long they stay hot. Okay. This one loses about 5 degrees an hour. Okay, the deluxe. This one loses about 6 degrees an hour. This one loses about 7 degrees an hour, which is great for a 3 liter. I know it seems like it loses less, more, but it's okay because of what it's doing. Once you understand the principles of it, you're going, oh, that's pretty cool. Then I tested, this is a Wonder bag. These are actually made in Africa, and it's a humanitarian organization that makes them. And so for every time you buy one, somebody in Africa gets one, which is awesome. If you buy one, make sure you buy it from their website. I wouldn't buy it off Amazon. They're more expensive. At least they were last time I checked. When I did a test, I did that one. That's a Wonder oven or a Wonder box, Wonder bag, Hope Sack. I tested all of them. I was at my mom's house, and I put them all on the kitchen table. They had all the exact same pot in them. And I brought the water to a boil, put them in, and then just left them there and tested them after however many hours I did. I picked this up, and there was a spot on my mom's table. I'm like, oops, sorry. So what was it doing? It's losing heat through the bottom. But I like this because I can put like a square dish in it. I could use it by using my oven to make a casserole, and I could transport it in here and take it somewhere. So if I could figure out the problem with losing heat at the bottom, then I like it. Okay, reflector, just reflects right back up, right? So it's gonna hold the heat long enough for me to get it wherever I need it to go. So I just keep that in there for when I wanna use it. But, so that one, I don't even know how long I couldn't really even tell. Obviously it didn't hold the heat as well as the other ones. This one and that one were almost the same, which surprised me because the first time I used that one, I was teaching a class. I put soup in it, the gray one. Can you see the gray one right there? I'll lift it up so the camera can see it. So this one, you just put the pot down inside. They're just pillows, right? And then once the pot's in, you put this on top. Okay. So the first time I used that one, I put it in just a laundry basket. And I took it with me and took it to the class, and I tested it to see how hot it was and how hot it kept it, and it cooled a lot. And I was like, huh, that doesn't work. There's no way I'm gonna use that if it's not even very hot. And then when I was at my mom's house doing it, and I had them all together, that one and that one lost about 2.5 degrees an hour, which is awesome, right? I'm like, so what happened before? You know what happened? Yeah, I moved it. I shifted it, and it lost the heat. It opened, so it lost heat. So I would put that in a tote or something and make sure the lid's on it so it doesn't shift. What? Oh, yes.
It makes a difference what you stuff it with.
Yeah.
Because I
It
made
would.
4 of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have to get the right little bead.
Yes, the little ones.
That makes
Mm-hmm. It would make a huge difference, and how much you put in. If you look at that one, it's got the thick amount. I've seen them where they don't put as much in it, and there's no way it's going to stay hot, those ones. But thank you for that, because you're right. You want the little tiny styrofoam beads. This one is shredded foam. That's why I decided to use shredded foam in mine. And so that one's shredded foam, because I think it would be horrible trying to make this with those. I don't know how you'd put it in the tube. Yeah, the styrofoam beads, I don't know how I'd put it in the tube. I have no idea. It's messy enough with foam. I am covered with foam whenever I'm doing it, so. Sorry. Another thing I wanted to just show you real quick. I found this on Amazon. Just a little Stanley. It doesn't have a pot inside, but you know, you guys have made oatmeal, right? In a thermos. It's just a thermos. It's a nice little quality. Oh my gosh, I forgot. There's cookies in here. I don't know where they came from, but last time I opened this at my class last week and there were cookies in it and I forgot to take them out. But there's a garbage can here, so anyway. I have no idea how long those cookies have been in there or where they came from. So anyway, but I thought for sure I always had to boil. I'm going to talk about what you have to do to maximize efficiency. Okay, I am going to talk about that, and we're going to go by those guidelines as I present that part. But I'm going to just switch a little bit to the end where I mess everything up, because I was in Kenya, and remember how I said the ladies didn't like the Hope Sack to get dirty? Well, they refused to put the pot inside of the hope sack. And I didn't know why at first, but it was because I borrowed a pot from the hotel and they didn't want to get the pot black to put it in there. So they refused to boil the water in the pot. I needed to go in there. And the idea is to boil it the most, boil it and then hurry and put it in the pot, in the insulator, so you don't lose heat. So here I am, basically, they're just dumping the water in and dumping the rice in. And I didn't know if it was going to work. And they sat there like this, like, you're the craziest woman we've ever seen. They were stone-faced. They were like, this is never going to work. And so my point in saying that is that to put the boiling water in here with something and then put the lid on, whether it's freeze-dried meals or, rice, it's going to work for you, okay? So if you've got just some thermoses like this, you can do it too. And I like this little Stanley. I think it's awesome. But what happened is after an hour and a half, we went in to open the rice and we opened it and there was the most beautiful long grain rice sitting in that thing. And the women had these huge smiles on their faces. They thought I was wonderful then. And I'm like, nobody touch it. Because if you were going to stir that, it's just full of water on the bottom, right? Because we didn't boil out any water. But we could strain it, just strain it, and then they could eat it. So that was crazy. I was stressed for the whole hour and a half. I was like, I had no idea if it was going to work. Because I was used to boiling it for 3 minutes, mostly just to get the water out. So, okay, here's some ideas of what to cook in a thermal cooker. Do you guys have family parties, right? This is what I make all the time. I either do sloppy joes or pulled pork sandwiches. I'll do the pork in here. I realize you can't boil that. We'll talk about that later. These are baked beans, the recipe's in my book. And that one is potato salad. All right. So I use, when I make potato salad, and I'm going to cover that in a minute, I actually use thermal cookers for 2 different things when I make potato salad. That's why I like talking about it. Here's another one. This is see the pool. Well, you can see them all lined up because everybody in my family has one. This is like a mission farewell or a mission homecoming, something. This one is a party we had at my sister's. Inside of those 2, what I did is I made hash brown casserole for like a breakfast casserole. And I just made it into 2 of these. And in the bottom of this, and I just slid them in the oven because I just need a heat source, right? I can use the oven as my heat source. And it didn't have to be boiled, right? So I just slid them in the oven, heated them up, and I used this as a warmer. And they stayed nice and hot until we were ready to eat. Using these as a warmer is honestly what you're going to do the majority of the time. Because a lot of stuff's already cooked when you put it in here because you're boiling it already. But there are times when you are actually cooking in it too, and I'll go over some of those. There's some more. That's another party, I don't know. I'm sure my mother attended all of these, right, Mom? They look familiar. Okay, let's talk about potato salad. So, if I am making potato salad or mashed potatoes, what I like to do, depending on how much time I have, I will cut up my potatoes into pieces and put them in my pot, fill it up, put water over it, bring them to a boil, and put them in here. I leave them for 25 minutes. And then I take them out, strain them. I either make my mashed potatoes if I'm making mashed potatoes, or I let them sit out a little bit before, and then I'll make my potato salad. Mashed potatoes, once they're done, I just put them back in and put them in here, and they'll stay hot until I'm ready to eat it. Like I could make them before church and they're still going to be warm when I get back from church. I'll have to make them after church. The potato salad, I will put it back in the pot. Once I mix up my salad, put it back in here, put it in the fridge. Okay? Then when I'm ready to go to my party, I just take it out of the fridge, put it in here, stays cool. So it's going to keep things cool. If it's going to keep it hot, it's going to keep it cool. Okay? So remember, you can also do that with a thermal cooker. You can keep your things cool too. So you can make salads. I remember my son, we had a party for him, and I had everything set aside. I had Cafe Rio is what I did. So I did the meat, I had the rice, I had the beans, I had like 2 salads. And when everybody got there was like 100 people came over. I just flipped up all the things. I lined them up, flip, 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 flip. It was so awesome. I'm like, why didn't I have this when I was catering? I would have utilized it. I didn't know about it though. Okay, so let's talk about how to use a thermal cooker. You have some ideas of what you can do with it, right? Can you see how you can use it now instead of waiting for your emergency? Okay, this is called the Fireless Cookbook. This was written in 1905. And in it, it says, mistakes in temperature tests, in measuring, in time, and in other conditions may result in failures which must not be imputed to the cooker, but the cook. If you doesn't work, there's just an element that you didn't do right. A thermal cooker will work every time because it's science, right? If it doesn't work, it's because something was wrong in the science. So, why science teachers should not be given playground duty, right? We have cause and effect. So what's going in is going to affect what comes out. So that's why I wrote a book to try and help you. My book is like written in a way that is like, read the instructions because I'm teaching as I'm talking in the instructions. At least that was my goal in writing it. And it's super simple to do. Once you get the hang of it, you're going to know exactly what happens. You're going to fail sometimes. I failed a ton because I was trying to figure out how it worked. So let's talk about the basics. Okay, maximum efficiency. This is what I go in when I talk about the book. We're going to talk about what's maximum efficiency is. And what my guidelines were as I was thinking about what I wanted to do was I wanted to save fuel and I wanted it to stay hot for at least 8 hours. Those were my two guidelines as I wrote my book, because it's preparedness, right? With that being said, if I tell you there's a 4-minute boil and you accidentally boil it for 10, what's going to happen? Nothing. Probably nothing. Rice is the only thing I can think of that's going to cause a problem. But as far as everything else that I can think of, it's not going to matter. What I was saying, the 4-minute boil, was to maximize the efficiency and save as much fuel as we could. Okay? We live in a world where 5 more minutes on the stove is not going to make a difference on our fuel bill, right? But in an emergency situation, we want to take care of that fuel that we have. So that's why it's written that way. Okay, we have some do's. The first one is something must come to a boil. And I word it this way because we talked about soups, and I'm going to teach you in a minute that you can do a whole lot more than just soups. But something still is coming to a boil, okay? Or you're manipulating, okay? 75 to 80% full. You want your pot 75 to 80% full because you need that thermal mass. It's about how much mass you have. The more mass you have, the longer it's going to stay hot. Okay, you have a couple don'ts. Don't put anything frozen in there. If you put some frozen chicken in the middle and boil it, it's going to be boiling water around, but the inside's still going to be frozen. And as soon as you take it off the heat, it's going to cool down the whole container. So make sure that if you're using something that's been frozen, defrost it first and then use it in the thermal cooker. No peeking. Right. It is sort of hard. It's not hard for me at all now. I don't care, right? But at first, I'm like, wonder if it's not done. How do I know if it's done? If it's not done, you learn little tricks. It's not going to be a big deal. If you open it and it's not done, how long is it? It's already really hot. Say something's not done it, stick it back on the stove and put it back in the cooker for 15 minutes or whatever, right? There's ways to manipulate until you figure it out. So we're going to talk about thermal mass, insulators, temperature, and timing. Okay, thermal mass is the amount of. It's the volume that you have inside of your pot, okay? So what we're basically doing is we are putting something cold, putting on heat, and then we're taking it off heat and it's going to lose heat, right? That's how we cook. With thermal cooking, we're adding an insulator, which means we have our pot going on the stove. We're adding an insulator, which makes it so the heat leaves more slowly, and so the food stays hot longer. Okay, let's say that I have these two hope sacks. You can see that they're exactly the same picture, so we know they're exactly the same size, right? And we have a big pot and we have a little pot. Of course, I just made that pot look little, right? But it's okay, you get what I'm saying. I put both of them on the stove. I put them in here. Oh, I bring the water, say with water. I bring them to a boil, put them in the insulators. Which one's going to, well, first of all, which one's coming to the boil first? Small one, always. Why? Science, right? It's less mass. There's no way I can get around the fact if everything's equal, my temperature's the same, this one's always going to heat up fastest. Okay, I put them in here. Which one's going to cool the fastest? Always, same reason, right? There's less thermal mass. So, is it possible to have the small pot retain heat as the large pot? And how do I do that? More insulation. Increase the amount of insulation. So, see these two? This one's a 5.5 and this is a 7 liter, but don't they look like they're almost the same size? Because this has more insulation to compensate for less thermal mass. They built it into the cooker. Okay, is there anything else? We've actually covered all the things in here. There's 3 things that I came up with. How about the quality of the insulator? Okay, this vacuum seal is going to be a better quality than a basket full of blankets, right? If the pots are the same size, then this one's always going to work better than that one. I can manipulate that by having that be a bigger pot, and then that could stay hot as long as that, probably, right? Does that make sense? Okay. One thing about that book, that Fireless Cookbook, that was really funny is they said in it, they're like, the best insulator is a vacuum insulation, but it will never be available for home use because it's too expensive. It's for commercial use, which is funny. It's still the most expensive, but still it's affordable. Although the only ones I know of, I don't know of any right now you can get here. I haven't looked for a while on Amazon. There might be some. This one comes out of England. It's the only place you can get this one. It's a Mr. D thermal cooker. And the Shuttle Chef, last time I checked, they're coming out of Canada. But you can still get them. They're just going to be shipped to you from Canada. And then, unless they're out of stock. And there's one called I want to say it's Tiger. A Tiger. And I have one of those too. It's a vacuum. And you can get bigger sizes in that one. But those are coming out of the Orient or somewhere. I don't even know that you can find one around they're hard to find. The other thing in the book that it said when they were talking about insulators was that one of the best insulators that works really well is actually asbestos, right? Which is hilarious because back then they would have used it, right? It's a great insulator. We just don't use it anymore. The third thing is by adding extra thermal mass, which is what this was. And like I mentioned, adding more food inside of a pot to go in the basket with blankets. That's adding extra thermal mass, but that doesn't fit with if they're all the same size. So you'd add extra thermal mass like he did with that cast iron on the bottom. Okay, let's talk about temperature. People get worried about the temperature of your food. So we're bringing food to a boil. And so at our altitude, our boiling point is 205 degrees, right? They're right about 205 degrees because we're not at sea level. So if the cooker loses 5 degrees an hour like this one, after 8 hours, what's the temperature of the food inside? Who's our mathematician? 165, exactly. What's the danger zone like in food safety? I've only taken that test a million times. Sorry. 165 is how hot the meat has to get to. 140. It's actually 135, but we're going to go with 140. And I have a reason for that. You don't want, once your food gets down to 140, then the bacteria can start to grow, right? And when your food's frozen, it starts to warm up. It starts doing that at 40 degrees. So I can remember 40 together, so 40 and 140. That part in there is where you want to be careful with your food and not leave it there too long with the temperature in that range. Let's say that I would suggest having a thermometer if you have a thermal cooker. Let's say you come back after 12 hours because you've been so busy and you come back and you test your food and it is 140 degrees. What do? Do you have to throw it away? No. What do? There's 3 things. What are they? Put it on the stove and heat it up. Refrigerate it. Eat it. Yep, those are it. Awesome. Food safety. Yeah. Okay, there's 2 times with the thermal cooker that we need to think about time. The first one is, how long do you boil the food for? Right? That's what people ask me. How long do you boil the food for? The second one is, how long does it wait inside of the cooker? So let's talk about how long it boils for. For the most part, food is just going to come to a boil. If you're doing freeze-dried and dehydrated food, you're going to bring it to a boil. A lot of foods are sort of that way. I go with meat. I think about the size of my meat. If it's a bite-sized meat, I boil it for 4 minutes. If it's like a 2-inch piece of meat, I'm going to boil it for 10 minutes. That's maximizing efficiency. In our world, you could boil it longer. But that's the guidelines that I like to put. The other things that are different are grains. I might let them boil a minute or 2. And beans. So beans are the thing that can be tricky. So beans, I like to do a 10-minute boil with soaked beans. So I soak them for at least 6 hours, strain them, add fresh water, a little bit of salt. The instructions are in my book. And then I bring them back to a boil and boil them for 10 minutes and then put them in the thermal cooker for 7 to 8 hours. Okay. I remember talking about this in a YouTube video, and Mr. D, he said, he messaged me and he said, well, I make gammon all the time in my thermal cooker. And I'm like, I have no idea. I had to look up what's gammon. It was a ham hock or something. I don't know. Ham hock. But it's about this big. And I'm like, of course, but you're going to extend the amount of time that you're going to boil it because it has to heat through. So I do a 25-minute boil or so on that to heat it through. Okay. I was just saving fuel by cutting up my roast. That's all. It's, you know, how big's the dripper pan, right? The thing about cutting the end of the roast off because that's how big the pot was. Yeah, sort of the same thing. Another thing that I've learned is that if you look at instructions with people that live in the Orient and other places around the world, especially the Orient, they use a thermal cooker a lot. Their technique is totally different than mine because I'm doing it for preparedness mind. That's where I came at it at. You'll see if you're watching instructions that they'll put some food in here, you know, boil it, put it in here, take it out, add some other ingredients, finish, boil it again, put it back in. They'll do that several times, right? And so that's just how they do it because different foods need a different different times to cook, right? So they do it that way. Also, what it would do is help it so that you wouldn't have to have as much volume in there because you're heating it up and it's getting closer to the time you're going to use it. And so you could have less volume and it would stay hot. Those are a couple things I noticed about that. But there's a ton of things to learn. I don't know anything about that because I haven't studied that. So you can do that and learn that and teach me. Okay, how long do you leave it in this part, in the outside part? In my book, I talk about 2 to 8 hours. Yeah, leave it in until you're ready to eat. It's really up to you. The only thing that really is less than that is usually potatoes. Because if I look at it like I want to make something and eat it before 2 hours, I'm probably going to use another method. So I just like, if I'm going to eat it 2 to 8 hours, that's what I do, or longer, right? But usually I find I'm eating it 3 to 4 hours, 3.5 to 4 hours, maybe 5. Because if I think about it in the afternoon, it's like 2 o'clock and dinner's at 6. Then I'm prepping it and then there's dinner. So that's usually how long it stays in there. Some things that it does really well is like yogurt. You want to leave it in at least 11 hours when you make yogurt because then it makes it nice and thick. It thickens up nicely. A pot roast, I'm going to leave at least 7 hours. And beans, like I said, are 6 to 7 hours. If your beans are still hard, boil them again and stick them back in. This is not a promise on how old beans. We are prepping people. We have old beans, and I do not promise anything on an old bean. Make flour out of, if you can't figure it out, I don't know. Use your pressure cooker. That's another option. Huh? Yes, buy the beans here because they're fresh and they'll cook for you. Yes. Absolutely. So I've talked about the basics of things. The thing that's super exciting about a thermal cooker is those basic things that you can boil are only the beginning of what you can do. I can probably figure out how to make almost anything in a thermal cooker except for cookies. Seriously. So I obviously can't figure out how to do that, but I can do a lot with container cooking. The other thing I love about container cooking is it now makes it so this big pot right here that serves so many people, I can make a meal for 2 and still utilize my thermal cooker. From the very beginning, people always ask me, how do I make it for less? That makes too much food. I don't want to feed my family, me and my husband, for 2 weeks off of one pot of food. And I don't blame them. I don't want to eat it every night either. So I've been working tirelessly in a way. That's always my focus, is how can I make for less and still be efficient? So here's a couple ideas. Here's bread. I have a couple of these pots that they don't carry here. I brought a couple, they're out in my car. This is what I like to use for bread because it looks like a loaf, right? But I use this for bread, and I use this for bread, and I use these for bread. Love mason jars, have mason jars. Just make sure there's not a neck on them, and you can use all different sizes of mason jars for thermal cooking. What I love about them is that they're submergible. Just don't add the jar after you're boiling the water. I wouldn't advise that. I might have tried it a couple times. It doesn't work. Yeah, you'd think I'd only do it once. You'd think I wouldn't do it at all because I know it's not going to work. It's just going to break. No, I did it twice. So now I have a habit of, I'll explain how I do bread. This is what I do every time, whether it's a stainless steel or a glass container. I put my dough about a fourth to a third to a fourth size, you know, the bottom of here. I put tin foil and elastic on top if I'm using this one. I put it down in here. I take it over to the sink, and then I put the water around the outside. As soon as this sort of starts to float, I turn off the water. This is awesome because it goes right to the top, and I just put the lid on and put it on the stove. And then I bring that to a boil. As it's coming to a boil, it is rising. And then I put it in here for like 2 hours. And then when I'm done, I have a crustless loaf of bread. It's a little bit more dense, but it's crustless. By the way, how much time do I have?
30 minutes.
Oh, really? Oh, awesome. Really? Good. Come up with lots with questions, because now I can really tell you lots of stuff. So I'm always used to like, oh no, I've gone, it's like close to an hour. So how much time do I have? All right. So be coming up with ideas of what you want me to talk about, what meals or dishes you want to learn to do after we're done, because I can do that. So let's say that I want to make a loaf of bread in this because it already has a container, a lid, right? Now I don't have to worry about storing my tin foil. So if I put it in here and I'm waiting for it to float, it's going to float really fast. And it's not hardly going to have any water in there at all. And it's really not going to cook very well because there's no thermal mass, right? So what you want to make sure and do with a container like this is you want to trivet. Okay, now my water line is going to be way up here. Okay, and then the same thing, I put this inside, take it to the sink, put water around the outside. As soon as it starts to float, barely starts to float, I turn off the water, take it to the stove, bring it to a boil, boil for 15 minutes, put it in the thermal cooker for 2 hours. Okay, it can stay longer than 2 hours. It's not going to hurt the bread at all. It's just going to sit there until you're ready for it. Okay, does that make sense? Did you notice I'm still boiling something, right? Remember the guideline that something has to come to a boil? With containers, I'm putting water around. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. I even have sourdough in my cookbook. Like natural yeast bread. Be super patient. Like super patient. I made so many bricks. A lot of bricks trying to make that. But the bricks made really good crackers. So I did come up with good things with it. All right. Another thing, oh yeah, the chickens. I don't know if I had chickens then, maybe. But the crackers were so good because I cut them thin and put a little olive oil in them and toast them in the oven. And they were really good. Okay. This one right here, these work really great. I was sitting in a class one time and I said, these seem to work. And the guy in the back raised his hand and he goes, yeah, because this rubber in here and this plastic will heat up to 240 degrees or something. We're not getting that hot, right? So 2 of these stack inside of here nicely and they're pretty much submergible. The only thing I found that water got into was like a quiche. Must have something to do with the egg. The gas would come out and the water would go in. So I wouldn't do that, but I would put like these potatoes. These are just sweet potatoes and regular potatoes tossed with some seasoning and olive oil and put it in one of them. And then the other one is my meatloaf recipe that's in here. I usually put that on top. Come over, put water, fill it with water, bring it to a boil. Okay, now you've got this big mass like this. This is not a 5-minute boil. There is no way it's a 5-minute boil, nor is it going to stay hot for 8 hours. It's just not. This isn't stuff that's about maximum efficiency anymore. This is about manipulation and being creative and figuring out how to cook food that you want to eat. So I'm going to go at least 25 minutes on that, okay, with the 2. I'm going to boil it about 25 minutes and then put it in here for a couple hours. And then the meatloaf's delicious and the potatoes are ready to go. I put the potatoes on the bottom because they'll get a little hotter faster because they need a little more time to cook, okay? And then this one, this recipe you can do every single day and have a different meal. You ready? I got an oven bag, right? So I have meat. And another thing I love about this recipe, I call it all-in-one pot. And the other thing I love about it is that I can cook it for 2 people. I can cook for 2 people and I can cook for 7 people doing this, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the number of potatoes, maybe sweet potatoes or regular potatoes or a mix in the bottom of my pot. Sweet potatoes would want to be sort of small because sometimes they're sort of big. Put them in the bottom and just like a single layer of potatoes on the bottom. And then I'm going to get the oven bag and I'm going to put the meat in, the amount of meat we want to eat. And then I'm going to put whatever sauce. I can do barbecue sauce, I can do teriyaki sauce, I can do lemon pepper, I can do there's tons of seasonings, right? If I'm going to use a seasoning, I might put some butter in with it. And then I'm going to mix it all from the outside. I'm going to put it flat, like a 10-minute boil, put it on top of the potatoes, and take it over the sink and fill it so it just covers the meat. I want to have enough room for my pot to go inside. So you don't want to go higher than that. Okay? I'm going to set that one on the stove and put my vegetables in this one and bring those to a boil. This needs a 10-minute boil. This needs to come to a boil. So once this is going and starting to get closer, then I can get this going. It doesn't matter if this goes more than bringing to a boil. Then this goes inside of here with a lid and it goes inside the cooker. I'm going to leave at least a couple hours, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't really matter. It's just going to sit there for me. When I'm ready to eat or right before I'm ready to eat, I'm going to take this out, take out the meat, set it aside. I'm going to strain the potatoes. Put the lid back on, put the vegetable back on, and put it back in here. I'm going to pick up the meat, put an instant thickener inside, mush it around. Now I have meat, potatoes, meat and gravy, right? I just made a gravy. I have potatoes, meat, gravy, vegetables all in one pot. And I can do different meats, different sauces, different potatoes, different vegetables, and mix them every day. Or maybe I can do it twice a week and at least get used to using the thermal cooker, right? I love this idea. I think it's just, and it's good. It tastes good. The meat's always tender. It works great. Okay, I have an online course that's online. Obviously, it's online with me talking way too much, but it's everything I could possibly think of about thermal cooking. There's 10 lessons and just what I could figure out. This is not about canning. Don't can in a thermal cooker. That's not what it is. It's making food that doesn't come to a boil and using leftovers. This is just showing how this is shepherd's pie with like Sunday potatoes left over, right? Leftover pasta. That's a little lasagna with leftover pasta. And I just put them in here. So let's say we make 2 shepherd's pies, put them in 2 spots. And then I have 4 of these. So maybe I put some dough for rolls in 2 of them and stack them, and some dessert in 2 of them and stack them, and then bring it to a boil maybe 15 minutes, and then put them in the thermal cooker, and then I can just take it and go. I can go to the mountains, I can do whatever, and I have a meal for 2 people. Go on a picnic, right? You've got the meal ready to go. And you've got the shepherd's pie already has the vegetables in it, and you have a bread and you have dessert all there together using containers. Here's a picture of the bread. You can see that I'm showing how to use the trivet. Okay, the benefits of thermal cooking. All right. Okay, when I was in Mexico, this is the people in Mexico, and I was teaching my class, and they definitely loved the fuel savings, right? They got it because they cook a lot of beans. So they get the fuel savings component. And that's honestly, when I started, to me, that was sort of what it was about, was saving fuel. But I don't know. There's other things that are more important. This right here, I'm in Kenya, and it was my first trip it was November 2018. And we went to set up a garden tower, and the people, somebody said, Cindy, come here, you got to come see this kitchen. They want to show you a kitchen. And it was a mud hut, and the women make them. The women build the mud huts. The men are herders traditionally. This is the Maasai. The men are traditionally herders, so the women do everything else, literally. They really do. And this is inside. I go in, you walk in this way, turn this way, and then there's this room, right? It's not even that long, right? It's maybe to that, not even to the board. I don't know, maybe to, it wasn't very big. It was maybe to your feet, right? And there was an alcove there with like 2 people could sleep there. That's what we're sitting on. And there were 2 alcoves on this side. And the middle piece was from there to maybe right here, is how wide it was. Right over there, there was the fireplace. Looky, it's a rocket stove, right? Totally is a rocket stove, which I think is awesome. The pot sits right on top of there. She'd made us tea, and it had flex in it, right? Because it just did, the fire, soot from the fire. So I walk in, and the day was extremely hot. There was no doubt in my mind it was going to be hot in there, and I knew it was going to be smoky in there because she had a fire inside of her kitchen going all the time. But what I didn't realize was that it was going to be that dark with absolutely no way to get light. That's how dark it is all the time in that room, because it was daylight. It was the middle of the day outside. And there's only one little window just right up there above where that picture is with the little shelves. It was about this big with no window in it. It's just air open, right? There's not actually a window in there like glass. It's just an opening to ventilate through from the doorway to that. And since they have the door like this to keep animals out, right? So there's no light coming in that way, and there's no light coming in that way. It was so dark, so dark. But the health, I remember I was giving about 10 hope sacks away to a lady heading to Dominican Republic. So, no, she was going to Haiti. She was from Haiti. And she was taking some over, and it was a little presentation where we were giving them to her. And first thing she said is, these are going to save the women's lives because they're in over a fire so much, and they really have a lot of problems with their lungs. So part of it is, it's awesome for anybody we can help that way be able to stay away a little bit more from the lungs. Another thing I was reading about with a thermal cooker, because sun ovens, they like to send sun ovens over because there's so much sun there. But the women find that it doesn't save them time. The last one is time. The women, time is the thing in Kenya. If the women can have more time, then they're super, super grateful. And that's what they see with a thermal cooker, is they're able to utilize their time better because they can, and then the kids maybe they can have tea for breakfast and it'll be ready, or they can have some kind of a mush ready for them for breakfast, where typically they don't get breakfast before they go to school. And so with time, what I noticed with the solar ovens and what I was reading is that the solar ovens, the women have to man because someone will come and steal the food, right? Or they have to rotate it, the combination of the two. And where we go on the Masai Mara, there could be animals too. So they sort of have to keep an eye on it, where a hope sack or a thermal cooker, they can just slide it inside in a corner and nobody even knows it's there. They can stick it, in the end cove of the thing. This is the Hope Sack Club in Encareta, Kenya. And this is when they were I left them there and they were filling them and they were teaching each other how to use them. They definitely know how to cook Kenyan food in those now. It tastes just like if they were doing it over a fire, because we had a certification for them when I was there. And this was before we did the certification. They were just learning and playing with it. But time is a real thing. I thought we worried about our time because we're so busy. But there's a lady in Kenya that was telling us, it took a while to get the women to talk. We had to have the men go away because the women won't talk. And so last year, it might be a year and a half now, they went on a trip and they had 3 girls that were in college come and went with the group, and they were able to talk, because they talked Maasai, because these women don't know how to even speak Swahili for the most part. They're speaking Maasai. And so the girls were able to talk to them, and they found out a whole lot of information without the men there. They kept the men away. And one of the ladies says, yeah, it takes me 4 hours a day to get water. And she says, I have to go 3 times, and I have to find someone to watch my kids because I go to the watering hole. And if there's an animal, a wild animal there, I have to be able to move quickly to get away. So it's the watering hole where the lions and the elephants and the zebras all, and the Cape buffalo, really. They all water there in the watering holes because it's right on it's on the biggest game reserve. The most, like it's like a really popular game reserve. That's where they live, is on the game reserve or right outside of the gates. So it's been crazy the things we've been able to do with 100 Humanitarians, because one of our things is water and spring preservation. With the water, we've been looking for springs so we can just preserve the springs. Or, because we can't drill the moss. We had to go down 190 meters to get water at our what's it called? Our cultural center. We have a cultural center there on the Masai Mara. Okay, I have a cookbook. Yes, question?
Yes, we had 2 questions online.
Yes.
One question was, do both of those thermal cookers, the 7 and the 5.5, are they both deluxe?
Jack said they're both going to be deluxe when they get the next
Okay.
shipment in. Yes.
Thank you. And the other question was, do they need to be, to get enough thermal mass, do they need to be filled up at least 3/4 full?
To maximize efficiency, yes.
Okay, thank
But
you.
that's a great question, because what you're going to do is you're going to manipulate once you have maximum efficiency. So if you're going to have less volume in it, it's not going to stay hot as long, or you want to boil longer, right? Boil a little bit longer, or just make sure it's boiling and cooked all the way and using it as a warmer. But you're going to have to eat faster. If it's just boiling and you only want this much in it, it's not going to last 8 hours. But you could put that much in it. It just isn't going to last 8 hours. Okay? You just have to figure that out. I didn't figure that out for you. You got to figure that part out yourself. Okay? So, cookbook I have like this, and they have a great group buy on here. They have a group buy, which is the best price that you can get on my book. It's $25, and it will be here. For those that are online, since you're not here, they just call them tomorrow and they will make sure you get a book for $25 too, because that's not going to be the price that's regularly in the store. Okay, so I also have what's called a live digital version. And so what I did is I put it online. Of course, for preparedness people, we all want a hard copy. I know that. But what I've done is I put this in a course. So what I was able to do is link it up with any videos I have, and I'm adding extra recipes to it and any extra information I can get. So that's sort of what I do with the online version. So you can either get just the plain download, or you can do the course online. So the live one is the course one. Okay. Oh, I took a picture of freeze-dried dehydrated meals, right? So this is awesome. I think this is awesome. When I read you my book, I'm going to take out 2 columns. But what this is freeze-dried and dehydrated ingredients, what to put in 1 jar or 1 bag. This is how much bulk you buy to make 12. So you just buy this much bulk, make 12. In the back of the book there's a page or there's a digital thing available. So you just make a picture of the page, make as many copies as you need to put on the jars or the bags, and then you have them. There's 11 or 12 recipes in here. I don't remember. The Italian wedding soup or zuppa toscana, it's really good, if I must say so myself. Okay, on my website, I have what's called the Ultimate Combo, and it's on the front page of my website. It's the only place you can find it. It's all 3 courses for $50. If you go through the checkout online, my checkout thing, it's going to be $70. So the only place for people that go to my, that want these 3 things, the only place to find it is on the front page, on the home page of my website. Okay. And the other thing, well, let's ask questions. I have another picture, but it's not about thermal cooking. Do you guys have questions? Did you think of something I want to explain? Yes.
Has your cookbook been updated at all? I have a cookbook, but I just want to know that it's...
No, it's not. This is the same one.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out what to do with the next one because I'm going to add hope sacks to it. Okay. So the digital one will have definitely the upgraded stuff, the updated information on the hope sack when it comes out. But I think I have 9 cases of these left is all. So I'm on my way out. So thanks for having my book. But yes, I don't have anything different. It's exactly the same. Any other questions? Yes.
So if you're purchasing the ultimate, for $50, does it expire? Do you need to
No.
buy more?
No, it's just you'll have access to it as long as I have it there. There might be a time when I switch platforms, but I'll give you access to everything again. So right now it's going to be on that platform for any time soon, the next year or 2. I don't see myself getting it switched over very fast. I want to, but I don't. When's my time? I don't have time. I don't know.
I might have missed this, but can we purchase the hope sacks or?
Yes, on my website.
Okay, on your website.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, because I make them. So it's going to take me a little bit to get it made. I do have a lady in Argentina who's almost done making me some. So I've taken them on Etsy because my life was about sewing while they were on Etsy. So now they're only available on my website for now until those come in. She's got the last 10 bags to make. Everything else is ready. And then she'll send them up and then I'll have like 30 to sell get them back on Etsy for a while. And then she's going to make more. So it's awesome because I don't have time to make them all, but I'll make them for you guys. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you really boil?
Okay.
Can you really boil in the when you put the glass things in the pot?
Uh-huh.
You don't need anything on the bottom. It doesn't crack the glass.
No.
At all.
Mm-mm.
Okay, and then
It's a triple clad base. That must be one of the reasons why. I don't know.
Okay, and then the other question was, you said you were going to talk about cooking for 2.
Yes, you want to use containers. So that's the container part.
Oh,
So
okay.
I didn't really go into a lot of detail other than that's how you cook for less with a big pot.
Okay.
So yes, great question because I wanted to make sure and clarify that. So these, 2 of these, right?
Yeah.
It's probably 2 days worth of food for 2 or 2 meals.
Okay.
If there's 2, right? But it's still a lot less than
Okay.
one of these.
Can you fill up the main pot with water and then just cook in the top?
Yeah, sure.
Would that be the same?
You could put your food in here.
Uh-huh.
It's 2.5 liters.
Mhm.
So whatever you're cooking in here, you could definitely do that and put water in the base to have to maximize efficiency and boil the water and then put your food in here. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else with questions? We have one over. Oh, we have one. We have 1, 2, 3. I don't know. I think these 2 were here. I saw whichever way you want to go. And then we have one there in the back.
My question is, with those plastic covered things,
Mm-hmm.
when you get them hot, do they ever open because the air expands?
Great question. Be careful when you grab them because it could open. If you get them out and leave them too long, sometimes they get the suction in them and they're hard to get open. So you have to wait till they cool all the way down. So it goes both ways.
Open when you're boiling.
Not usually, because they snap underneath here. They're not going to last forever. Obviously, well, these came broken actually when I ordered them, but they do get so they don't hold as well, and I just replace them when they do that. Okay.
Where do you purchase those containers, the glass ones?
Walmart, Smith's Marketplace, Costco. Just oh yeah, but you're gonna get a big kit at Costco. You can do them individually at some of the other places. Okay, I think we had one back there.
So you have to have fuel for all this. So in a case of emergency, what do you use for fuel?
Where are you gonna cook? Where do you want to cook? Inside or outside?
Outside, probably.
Yeah. So you've got a fire. You've got propane. What do you have? You can use charcoal. You can do it over charcoal. It's what did you prepare for, right? And then I would also have butane for inside, because if you can't get outside, you need to be able to cook. So I'd have some backup of butane for inside, because you can use that indoors.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We had something over here.
I just wanted to let you know that if you order the Saratoga Jacks on Amazon, you may get a ripoff. So Jack and Amy have said just buy from their website only, because they're not necessarily made from the best material, and people have had problems with those.
Yeah. So what I would suggest, these are the things to do. This is what I would suggest to do. I would buy these guys here, or getting them from Saratoga Jack, right? So get definitely from there. My website, I sell the same exact ones from my website, which are pretty well would be the same price as Amy and Jack. So I appreciate when you buy from me too, which is awesome. And then, but the best price you're going to get is here. So with that group buy. So I would order them from here. Unless you want one really fast, then you can go to my website and get one. But I'm the expensive price. So there's that. All right. Thanks for that. Because you're right. You need to pay attention, but the truth is, this is the exact same cooker as this. It just doesn't have the heavy pot. There are some that are lighter weight though. So you want to be aware of that. Yeah. Oh, there's one right here. Because I'm just here to tell what's out there, right?
So I saw on your pictures when you had the grouping of all the different kinds of thermal cookers, you had like a enameled cast iron pot.
Yes, it was a Dutch oven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you were going to utilize that as your thermal cooker, how would you use that? If you
you could put it inside of here, or you could put it in a cooler.
Right.
With blankets.
But if you were, could you still do like the little glass containers inside of that to cook?
Yeah, if it's the flat bottom, I think you could.
Okay.
I don't see why you couldn't. If you can make it work.
Okay.
Oh, so this is whatever you can make work, play. Okay. This is why I want to talk about this class is if you guys can play and you get this class gets your mind going on things you want to try, then I've succeeded in the class, right? And I know we're getting any more questions. I got 2 more things to do. Any more questions? There's one right here. Have you ever tried she's gonna have this.
Have you ever tried to transport ice cream in that?
Oh, totally. You can do ice cream.
And it stays really well.
So Amy did this one time. She was going to Boise, got a jug of ice cream, put it in here without the pot in there, closed the lid. It was ready to serve when she got to Boise. So it's going to be a little bit harder if it's in that. That's going to retain a little bit more than here. Okay, if you put it in one of those. Yes, we have another question right here.
How much are your love sacks?
They're 85. Okay, so let's do this one first, and then, so I just want to tell you about this. This is our sustainable project that we do with 100 Humanitarians, their garden towers. So these have 100, this is the large one. It has about 108 holes in it. So you can put plants around the outside and in the top. And literally we brought these, I'm so excited about it because we found it in Kenya. We brought it back, presented it to USANA Foundation, and now it's their sustainable food project that now they have in 15 countries. And they're just keep continuing to going. Because this is what we decided is this is a way to solve hunger. Next month we will have put 10,000 garden towers into Kenya in 1 year. Yeah. So they want them. They're going crazy. We have like 20 people assigned to be getting garden towers and 50 people will show up. And they'll just wait. They just have to wait their turn. There was such a huge demand. We have 8 communities now, I think 8 or 10 communities, and they are just, we can't build them fast enough. USANA Foundation can't give us enough money to get them all done fast enough. So anyway, So if you know anybody that wants to add to USANA Foundation's donations, that would be awesome. But anyway, so those are cool. We have these available here too for anybody that wants to try them in their gardens. So here's where you find me. What? Anything. Well, that's what we do. We put kale, Swiss chard, or spinach there, because what it does is they're able to have 2 garden towers, where in one they eat off of, the other one they actually sell the produce, so that it creates economic development for them. But they're able to get 3 to 5 meals a week for a family of 4 off of it with the one. And so it creates food and it creates economic development. So for every 4 to 5 people, they get 2 garden towers. And so here we've got small ones you can use as a potato one. You can do strawberries in it. You can do an herb one. We've got a medium size. It just depends on, I'd trellis off some squash off of the top. I mean, you can put a couple tomatoes on the top and do herbs and greens around the outside. I know, it's just as creative as you want to be.
Is that on your website?
Yeah, there's some of those on the website too. Yep. Yes, I do have more cards. Okay, I want to show you, how much more time do I have? Oh yeah, thank you. Okay, so let me show you what I think is the most awesome thing to do for your grandkids. You ready? Okay. What I like to do is, I'm not a huge cake person. I don't know about you guys. I'm okay with cake, but I can't eat a lot of cake because it's sort of dry, right? Or whatever. Like a box cake, I'd much rather have like a carrot cake or something like Village Baker chocolate cake, right? Let's be serious. The frosting is what it's all about. So, but I go get a cake mix, and one cake mix will, I mix it up. And I do, it's either 5 or 6 of these or 5, and the opposite of these. And I fill them about half full, put the lids on them, put the big ones in, stack the other ones on, put water, put it on the stove, boil for 10 minutes, put it in the thermal cooker. And this makes the best cupcakes ever because they're moist. And it tastes good, and it was only a cake mix. And that amount will do exactly 1 cake mix. And you take it out, and then you just feed it to the people. And they think you're really cool, and they can't believe you did it without putting it in the oven. And you just boiled it on the stove.
For how long?
7 to 10 minutes. It depends on what size you use. I talk about the sizes. Like I said, it's not going to hurt if you go a little longer. If I do like a cinnamon, like a cinnamon roll, so I'll roll it out, and I'll roll it up, and then I'll pinwheel it and put it in here and make a loaf out of it. And that's going to be, I add more time to that, because the dough will be done in a 15-minute boil, but that, and sometimes I go 20, just because I want it to make sure it's cooked. And then so that pinwheel one, I'd probably do that for 25 minutes. If I was going to do a carrot cake in here, 45 minutes. It's just going to, it's not going to cook on less than 45 minutes because it's so dense. So you sort of play with those kind of things, those more unique things. But I played with a lot to figure out how to get it to work. Anyway, so, I did tell you where these are. Let's Make Sense of Thermal Cooking or the Thermal Cooking Show. That's where you're going to find my names. My website's thermalcooking.net. Facebook, YouTube, or Let's Make Sense of Thermal Cooking, and Pinterest and Etsy, I think, are the Thermal Cooking Show, I think, if I remember right. So there we go. Anything else? I think we're set. The cake recipes in my book, yeah. Okay, we have one right here, a question.
So the lid on the bread that you had, the tall container.
Oh, tinfoil elastic.
So it was, and that keeps the water out?
The elastic does. Plus the water's only coming down here.
Okay. And then the cupcake things?
Submergible.
So you put the lids and the rings on? Okay.
Yeah, they'll submerge.
Okay.
I know, it'll hold them down, but you're just going to open them when you're done. You're not canning them.
Do you grease them first?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You mentioned you had a couple things to sell.
Oh, so I have, if you guys want one of these, I have these. I have, when you look at them, this is a 16, which means each size is 6 cups. I also have an 18, which means 8 cups. Okay. I have trivets. I have these, a few of them. I only have a couple of these out there, I think. And I think I have some of these.
And they would just send you Venmo.
Yeah,
when you're
they got Venmo. I have a little order form here if you want any. You can fill it out and then you can Venmo me. That's totally fine. And then these guys obviously have the cookbooks here. And then get on the group order. That's going to be an awesome price. That's just awesome. That's good.
Those cans you just had, they would fit in these cookers if you got them there.
The which cans? These?
Yeah, those fit into the ones that we ordered.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Just get a trivet. Make sure you have a trivet if you get one of those.
Thank you. So yes, so the Saratoga Jacks, if you wanted to get on the group buy, just come up to the front desk. We have a paper, and then you can buy tonight, or you can think about what you'd like to do. We're going to have it go on until Saturday. So the group buy special will go on until Saturday. So you can tell your friends, family members to call in or come into the store, and we'll put you on the list.
10 to 3 o'clock.
On Saturday. So in 10 to 6, Monday through Friday. Also, we still have a Blue Eddy left. We had a communications class last week. So if anyone needed an AC 300 and a B300, those online as well. And our used solar panel. Am I missing anything? Mitzi, a class, and also your gardening thing really quick, and then we'll close out.
Okay, so along the line of cooking, I'm offering how to pressure can meat classes. So you can sign up right at the register. They're $35 for a 3.5-hour workshop, hands-on workshop, how to pressure can meat. And also, if anybody, it is time to plant your gardens. I gave a gardening class 2 months ago, and we had winter and winter and winter and 2 days of spring, and now it's summer. So, yes, it's time to plant your gardens, seeds and your seedlings. Just watch for low temperatures below 40 degrees and cover them with a sheet, or put a bucket over the top of your tomato plants or something if it's going to be cool that night. And if anybody wants some help with your gardens or your yard, I'm a horticulturist. Call us here at the store, and they let me go out. They release me sometimes, once in a while. Yes, so you could hire me to help you with your yard and your garden. Anything else?
Just wanted to say thank you to Cindy Miller. Thank you. We loved all your information, so thank you for sharing. So, okay, that's it for tonight. Thank you for coming. And we do have a fire education class Thursday, May 18th at 6:30. We have a firefighter coming and sharing on fire safety. So we'll send out an email. So be on the lookout for that. Okay. Thank you.
So that's called the Wonder Oven. So you have the cookbooks and stuff?
Yes, they're up front.
I actually made them.
Yeah. It's already in the system, so we're ready to go.
So where do we get the cooker?
Up front. Yeah. Thank you.